Hey, I'm John, and these are 16 things I'm growing this September. So it's now early spring. I live just north of Sydney in Australia, so it's a great time to get in the garden. I have been planting out my veggie gardens and my herb gardens, and I just wanted to go through a few things that I have been growing and you should grow too. So I'm going to start with something nice and easy. So greens like lettuce, kale, rocket, spinach, these are all really good things to grow. Great base for a salad, and I've been picking my greens for say about a week or so now. I planted these about a month ago, so you can actually start these. Like here we don't get frosts, it's not that cold in winter. You can start quite a few of these veggies earlier if you want to. If you do get frosts, maybe just wait until your last frost. But for me, I planted these about 3 or 4 weeks ago and they've just grown really well. So the other thing here, I've mostly planted seedlings to start. So seedlings obviously will not take as long to actually produce. Now the great thing with all these greens is that you can just very easily cut the outer leaves off and you can just keep getting more and more and more lettuce. So these will last for I'd say about a month or so, 4 to 6 weeks, and then the plants will go to seed and that'll be it. But here's the thing, it's all about succession planting. So I've planted my seedlings and I also planted some seeds. So the seeds will then start to grow up, and by the time my seedlings, as in when they're fully grown and mature, my seeds will start to grow, and then I have another extended cropping. So this is something you can do with quite a lot of plants. You can grow a lot of stuff at once, but it's important to succession plant. Then you get to enjoy things over a longer period of time. Number two. Now, number 2 is tomatoes, and tomatoes are great to grow. They're really easy, they're fast growing, and once you plant them one year, they'll often keep coming back as seeds for the following years. Now, I'm growing some cherry tomatoes and some larger tomatoes, like they're kind of called like sauce making tomatoes. But the cherry tomatoes are really easy, and because they're only so small, they'll grow really quickly, and I find that pests don't really bother them. The bigger tomatoes, that's when, they're around for longer and like animals and stuff can start eating them. So I would suggest starting with cherry tomatoes, just the little sweet tomatoes, is a good start if you're inexperienced. Now, number three is snow peas, or any kind of peas for that matter. Now these are really easy to grow, and behind my little veggie garden space here, I have some chicken wire, and the snow peas need something to grow up. So some chicken wire, very easy to put up. You can also kind of use stakes and make them grow up in a central little section, but these are great. I've planted these again about 3 weeks ago from seedlings. You can go for seedlings, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel like doing. Seedlings are always going to be a bit quicker. So I've got 2 here that are growing really well, and they will start flowering soon. But I've got a few more planted, so I think I've got another 6 smaller ones planted, and this comes back to the succession planting idea again. I could plant a whole lot of snow peas, and I'll get so many at once, but I'll probably only be able to harvest them for about 4 to 6 weeks. If I do a couple of crops in a succession, so planting about 3 weeks apart, I'll be able to extend that picking season for quite a few months until it gets too hot and they don't grow too well. Now, number 4 is radishes. Now, to be honest, I actually haven't grown radishes before, but I grew these from seed, and I wanted to grow them because they are really fast growing. So I planted these I think it was about 3 weeks ago now, and I can already see the red head on top, which is so cool. Now, as I said, radishes from seed take, I think it says 4 to 6 weeks until harvest. So they're great, like cut up thinly in salads and just, the sort of something new, but they're really fast and really easy to grow, so they're good to give a go if you have the space. All right, number 5. So this is carrots, and carrots are another really easy and good crop to grow. So this is where most of my carrots are here. These carrots were actually all started from seedlings. Now, most of the carrots I've grown before are from seeds, and funnily enough, although seeds are a little bit slower, they can actually grow better, because with the seedlings you have to be careful when you plant them that you're kind of directing the roots down, otherwise they can grow at a bit of a funny angle. And obviously too with carrots, you need to be aware that they do need a nice loose soil to stop getting like funny shaped direction carrots, because as soon as they hit a rock or hard clay, they will change directions, and that's when you get ugly carrots. But at the same time, they'll still taste great, so it doesn't matter what they look like. All right, so number 6 is celery. Now, celery is great because again, it's another really easy crop to grow. I'm actually growing it from seedlings and seeds. So celery is great to use in salads, but I also love to use it along with carrots in my pasta sauces, my tomato sauces. It just adds so much body and a nice sweetness, so just a delicious flavor. But also I've started using my celeries to actually juice. So I have some celery here from before winter, which is growing well. I don't have a lot of it left, but I've got a whole lot that I've planted in quite a few potted areas, which is coming along really well. And again, I have succession planted, so I planted some seedlings to start, and they're probably about like 10 centimeters tall. And I also planted some seeds, and the seeds are just popping up now. So I can, with celery, which I've been doing for the past couple of years, you can just trim the outer stalks, and they'll keep producing new stalks as long as you don't cut off the center stalk or the center growing crown. As you probably know, juicing uses quite a lot of vegetables, so I've planted a lot of celery for that reason. Now, number 7 is actually herbs, and I feel like herbs are often either grown a little bit or overlooked. Herbs are amazing to grow, and it is the perfect time, once winter's gone, once the cold weather has gone, to plant your basil, parsley, coriander, any of that kind of stuff, thyme. I find that my rosemary, although it's a rosemary bush, rosemary doesn't die here over winter, it lasts for years. But all of these herbs that may die over winter, it's a perfect time to plant them. And this year I've planted them all in separate pots. So I have a pot for my coriander, pot for my sweet basil, Thai basil, you know, all the different things. And it's growing and it's going really, really well. So herbs are fantastic. They're expensive to buy, so grow them yourself. They're really easy and you'll get plenty of herbs from them. Now, number 8 is chilies, and chilies are another great bit of flavor because you can grow the vegetables, but without herbs and without chilies, things can get a little bit boring. So these just help to add a lot of really nice flavor. So with chilies, you can grow some Thai chilies, like some bird's eye chilies, and I also love to grow jalapenos, and jalapenos are really great chopped in salads, green, or you can even have them red. So don't forget your chilies. Now, number 9 is potatoes, and behind me I have some potatoes I planted about 3 months ago, so they're getting towards being ready. I had a bit of a dig and there's a few potatoes in there. I just keep covering with mulch. I've also just planted some sweet potatoes behind them too. And potatoes can really be grown any time of year here. Sweet potatoes, more in the warmer months, but still they are pretty easy to grow. They can get a bit out of control, so just be careful and look after them, but they're very easy and they're great. And I know a lot of people say to buy seed potatoes, which go for it, you very much can, but I honestly just use old potatoes that I buy from the supermarket. You know, it works, it's easy, whatever works for you. Now, number 10 is corn. Now, corn is easy to grow, just keep up the water and the regular fertilization and you'll get plenty of corn to eat in the summer. Now, it may take up a little bit more space than some other vegetables, but it is quite good to have. Now, it's also important to remember that there are different types of corn, and sweet corn is the corn you want to eat, whereas other corns like popping corn is obviously to make popcorn, and there's other corns that aren't as sweet which can be turned into flour or to make, you know, corn chips, any of that kind of stuff, corn flour. So it is important to choose sweet corn if you want to just eat it off the cob. Now, number 11 is pumpkin. Now, pumpkin is easy to grow. You do need a bit of space for it though. So pumpkin is a vine. It'll grow kind of wherever it wants, and through the garden, through over grass, whatever, and it'll produce these flowers on the vine and they'll turn into pumpkins. I like to grow my pumpkins kind of on banks and hills. So I've got some I've planted on the rock face that can just grow over the rocks down onto the grass, and I've got some in some kind of areas I don't use as much, like under some trees. It's kind of an area where there's lots of sticks and broken down leaves, so they'll grow nicely over that. A bit of the garden I don't bother if it kind of takes over. Now, number 12 is zucchini. So zucchini or squash, those different types of veggies are really good to grow when you've got a healthy plant. And to be honest, I've had mixed results here with my zucchinis. I've had really good years, and I've had times that they kind of flower and they don't really, you know, produce fruit. But with the right fertilization, and also pest management is something too. These plants can be taken over by pests, and you can spray them. You can get different oils and spray the leaves if you want to. I know not everyone likes that. You can try chili and garlic sprays or mixes, whatever you want to do, to be honest. But zucchini is great because once it's going, it produces so many zucchinis. And zucchinis I love to use, again, my pastas, curries, anything, just to add some more veggies. I love zucchini and they're great to grow. Now, number 13 is eggplants. I love eggplant. Well, I wouldn't say I love the typical big purple eggplants. They can be nice in like an eggplant lasagna, or chopped up in a slower cooked thing, but I find they can be quite bitter. I love the smaller sweet eggplants, and these are delicious in stir fries. They're really easy to grow. I don't find the pests bother them too much, but my favorite are some of the variegated small ones, and you don't need to take the skin off, you don't need to do anything, just chop them up and put them in a stir fry, and they are delicious. And that brings me on to number 14, something that is kind of similar in my mind. It's a little tree kind of plant that grows through about 60 centimeters, similar to eggplant, but it is capsicums. Now, capsicums or peppers, if you're from America, fantastic. There's so many different types. Again, in the shops, you often just find, or at least in Australia, you'll find like the big kind of bell pepper, like the big capsicums, which I've again had mixed results actually growing. Because they're big, they take a long time to produce their fruit, they take a long time to mature, and I find it gives lots of time for pests to potentially start eating them, and especially mice and rats. So I often like to go for the smaller kind of peppers. I've got some what's called candy cane varieties. They're much smaller, they'll produce more fruit, and it won't take as long to actually produce these fruit. So I've got some flowers and little fruit forming, but we'll see how they go. Now, number 15 is beetroot. So beetroot, I don't know, I like beetroot. I know some people may not like it. I don't like the stuff in the jar. I like growing my own. It has a delicious earthy flavor, which is just really, really nice. So here I've planted a few different types of seedlings. I've planted some typical just red beetroot that you often see at the supermarket, but I've also got some colorful kind of variegated beetroot, which I'll try out, which will be delicious in kind of a roast or something along those lines. I've also made a delicious pasta, which I've made a video about, but it is just amazing. The rich color and that rich earthiness from the beetroot mixed with some roast feta, some roast onions and garlic, blended up over some pasta is delicious. So I'm excited to harvesting some of my beetroots in the coming months. Now, number 16 is actually not a vegetable, but it is a great time to start planting these. Number 16 I'm counting on this list is berries. Now, spring is a great time to start planting these berries. I've got a mature blueberry bush behind me. I've got quite a few strawberry plants, which is just starting to produce strawberries, and I've planted some raspberries as well. So these are all great to plant now. They produce fruit all into the spring, into the summer, and berries are so expensive and they're great to add to the diet, especially blueberries. They're so high in antioxidants. I planted my raspberries in kind of behind my veggie patch, which may have been a mistake, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm so excited to be harvesting an abundance of these over the summer. Now that I've gone through my list of 16 vegetables that I'm growing in September here in Australia, I just want to touch on some things that maybe you can get away with growing and that I am actually growing, but it is technically not the perfect time of year. So number one is onions, and onions take a long time to grow. Onions are best planted at even the end of autumn here where I am, where it doesn't get too cold. They need a long time in cooler weather to really produce the green from the tops and plump out those bulbs. They take more about 5 or 6 months, so it's good to get them in a little bit earlier. I've got some seedlings in. I put them in about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So that's my garlic, that's my onion, and I've also put some garlic in. They just need plenty of time to really mature before it gets too hot. Now, something in the same family is obviously leeks. Leeks I love growing. I've got quite a few in the garden now, some that I've been starting to harvest already, and some that are still quite small. Now, I haven't planted any this spring. I planted these all before winter. They've just kind of slowed down, but now they're starting to plump up and put on that growth. I personally probably wouldn't plant leeks, but if you want to give them a go, get them in ASAP, and obviously use seedlings, not seeds, because the seeds will take too long. And kind of the last thing which I'm growing too is brassicas, and brassicas are often slow growing. So the typical brassicas I'm talking about is like cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and broccoli. And these are great to grow, don't get me wrong, but again, they are quite slow growing, and we're kind of touch and go on the time of year when you can grow these. So I've got some cabbage which I planted about a month ago. It's growing well. I may just get it in time, but it takes time to actually form those big heads. Same as Brussels sprouts, I've got those in, but I put those in about 2 months ago, so they are still getting some time to establish. They're getting taller, and there's tiny little Brussels sprouts starting to form on the stems. Also with my broccoli, I planted broccoli at the end of autumn. I planted some seeds, and the seedlings are now grown up, and they're getting stronger and they're plumping up, and they'll be getting ready to form those heads soon, because those heads take a long time. Same with the cauliflower. I've got smaller seedlings. They might just get in time, but if you want to try broccoli, I suggest growing or trying some broccolini, so some baby broccoli. Baby broccoli grows so much faster, the heads don't take long to form, and you can keep cutting off all the different little heads and just use them in a stir fry, and they're delicious. So I got some broccolini seedlings. Probably my first ones were 2 months ago. I just got 2 that I planted, and they've been producing so much broccolini. They're shooting all out the sides, and they, as I said, grow much faster. So if you want to try broccoli, try some baby broccoli. I think you'll have much more luck with that considering the time of year. So that's my 16 vegetables that I'm growing in spring, early spring, September, here in Australia. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and obviously subscribe to see updates of the garden. I'm regularly posting little videos and some shorts of me harvesting these vegetables and cooking them, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and subscribe to keep updated on my garden.